Okay, we are live. Welcome, folks. We're going to start letting folks roll in here a little bit before we get really rolling. But welcome to the Show and Tell Show. This is our fourth installment of the fourth installment of the Show and Tell Show, and it has gone by so fast. I'm really excited about today's episode. I've been anticipating these guests for some time now, and I think it's going to be a really good one. We've got Johnny Gamber, who is going to come on and share his passion for pencils, something that I didn't know that existed, but now it's starting to make a little bit of sense. But it'll be interesting to talk to him. And then we're going to have Jen and Marty from Tiki Lounge here in Dallas. They'll come on and talk a little bit about tiki. Before we get rolling, I just wanted to kind of revisit some of the past episodes. I've uploaded those into YouTube. My mom lives in Virginia. She's a little bit of a Luddite. She actually uninstalled a lot of apps on her phone, including the App Store, so she can't join us on Instagram. So I actually move these over to YouTube, and then I send them to her in an email, and she is able to watch them later on. So anyway, the past episodes are up and available on YouTube. Last week was a pretty cool episode. We had Evan Tate from Tate Farms. We talked beef and bison and pigs. And he gave us a lot of information on just the quality of beef and meat. And it really, Evan's a great friend, but also a very interesting person to talk to. We had Nina, my niece, share her bearded dragon. We had the Harlows come on, and they shared a lot of their animals. They've got so many animals. They have a Great Dane named Kentucky. They've got 2 snakes and 2 rats and a hedgehog. It was a lot of fun. And then we had Johnny. Johnny was a surprise guest, kind of came in at the last minute. Johnny is a friend of Marty and Jen's, and he has a pet fox. So if your kids or you are interested in fox, check out that last one. The link is in my bio. I also want to always share a little something from like my own collection. This is what we call the Canada room. I'm usually in front of our fireplace, but this is the Canada room. Nixon has nothing to do with Canada, but there's other elements that I've collected from Canadiana and my time in Alaska and stuff. But anyway, this is the Canada room. We're presenting live from here tonight. But anyway, the first thing that I wanted to share is my son is actually graduating. He's graduating from college this week. Up in Toronto, Ontario, and he is going to be pursuing a career as a photographer. And we were recently cleaning out the guest room, and I came across this. I'll let you see that there. This is a photograph he took when he was a freshman in high school, and he entered it in. We have something called UIL here, and he entered it into a competition along with a couple of other ones. And this is really what started his interest in photography. And anyway, dug this old thing up. This is a lady here in Dallas now. She was just a kid then, named Micah. Wonder what Micah's up to. Anyway, proud of you, bud. Keep up the good work. Our first guest is going to be Johnny. Johnny is from Pencil Revolution, the website, the blog. I think under Instagram it's Pencilution. He also hosts the Erasable podcast. I actually have been following Musgrave Pencil Company for some time. My brother and I did a motorcycle trip out to Nashville last year. He came from North Carolina, and I went up to Natchez Trace, and we met in between. And that was in Nashville, and I saw that the Musgrave Pencil Company was somewhere close by. We didn't actually get to make it to the factory. I've been intrigued ever since, and I reached out to them earlier this week. And they are, as you might understand with the current situation, they are just doing what they can to stay, they just have a lot on their plate, and they couldn't come on board. But they did give me a couple of names, and I reached out to the very first person on the list, Johnny Gamber, and Johnny was very responsive and kind enough to join us. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pull him in here. Give me just 1 second. And we're going to have, there he is, we're going to have him join. Just give this a couple of seconds.
Hey,
There he is, man. How are you?
good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Johnny, you do go by Johnny. Is that correct?
Yeah. I didn't know that my name was John until first grade.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Okay.
it never stuck. It never stuck.
Okay. So I'm the same way. I'm James. I go by Jimbo with my family. Work, they call me Jim, but I didn't know I was a James until later on, and I felt it just felt weird. So I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on board. You don't know me from Adam. I reached out to you earlier this week, and you're sporty, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I was
Andy's
doing a little
saying
bit of a rough
for the
introduction.
shirt.
There we go.
Sorry.
Okay. I did a little bit of a rough introduction, but I want to allow you to kind of introduce yourself. I kind of been snooping about you. You've got a podcast, you've got a blog, you've got a band, which I don't totally dig the garage band that you're in, man. I was listening to them earlier. But anyway, you want to do a little bit of an introduction, let folks know who you are?
Sure. My name's Johnny. I live in Baltimore. I have three very spunky children. My job is staying home with them all the time. Um, I started the pencil blog in 2005 while I was working on the exams for my doctorate in grad school. It's sort of a like stay sane kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, Andy, who's on here, and Tim invited me to join a podcast called
Okay.
Erasable. So I warned them that I'm not a good public speaker at all. I'm really bad at it. I always get really nervous, but we've done 139 episodes.
Awesome.
So it's stuck around.
This thing is totally low key. As you can see, it's almost no budget. Oh, there is no budget here. But this is just a conversation between people that are obsessed with something or friends. So I want you to be completely comfortable. Questions will be coming up, and I think the first thing that you mentioned, you were pursuing a doctorate. What did you get your doctorate?
Yeah, I have a doctorate in philosophy.
Well, oh, okay, wow, all right, and
no job.
well, hey, I actually have a friend that is has the same thing, but great conversationalist, man. So someday maybe we'll have to sit over beer and just chat for a long time.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
We can hold our liquor.
Cool. Hey, so I've got to ask, where did the obsession? Is it fair to call it obsession?
Oh yeah.
Where did the obsession over pencils begin?
So I was sort of obsessed with journaling and stuff like that, and I was in the middle of Southern Illinois, and I didn't know a lot of people, so I spent a lot of time by myself. And I was reading Hemingway, and then I read about how Thoreau was actually like a big pencil pioneer, which made me feel weird because I love Thoreau and I didn't know that. But then I just sort of, went out to Walmart and found some American pencils and came home and used them, and I was like, this is great. This feels like growing up.
Yeah.
They're, very nostalgic and like, sensory, and they smell good. But now you can't go to Walmart and buy a dozen of those for $1 anymore. Not made in America, but I hunt them down. It's my new hobby.
Okay, so the brand that you bought, the American, is that a renowned brand?
So actually, this is the actual pencil. I don't know if it shows up.
Okay.
It was sort of, I think it existed under 4 or 5 different brands, and now it's gone because the company doesn't make pencils in America anymore.
Okay, so that's something that surprised me. You buy a pencil, you don't think, and really we don't get a whole lot of pencils anymore. I'm still very much a tactile person, so I like pens and pencils. I never gave a lot of thought to just running, like you said, to Walmart or the office supply store and grabbing pencils. But I know a good pencil when I've got one. Mm-hmm. And I knew this as a kid, right? You'd get those, you'd always have to show up to school. Unfortunately, in kindergarten, that was the only class we were allowed to have those big fat Husky pencils, which I loved.
Mm-hmm. I love those.
And then all of a sudden you graduated to first grade and you had to get number 2 pencils, right? Mm-hmm. At that time, I remember there would be these wooden pencils, and it felt like real wood, and like you could feel the texture on the tip of the wood. And then there would be these other pencils that, like, they didn't erase right, and the lead always broke, and you just knew they felt cheap. And even a kid of the 70s, I could tell, man, I got gypped on this pencil. But that was kind of like the extent of my experience. So you're at Walmart, you buy these pencils, and how does this thing just snowball into a podcast and a
Um,
vlog and a collection.
so I was obsessed with Moleskine notebooks at the time, and they
Yeah.
have like, notoriously crappy paper. So I was playing with a lot of pens, and I even bought a fountain pen, which felt weird at the time. And this was just like the opposite of all that. Just like one color, no point size, just sharpen it and go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just that, and then I went on the internet, and there was a little bit of stuff on the internet back then, and it's like a rabbit hole of like history and people like Steinbeck, where you can trace like what brands he liked and what grades of the brands he liked. Hemingway talks about him a lot, and of course Thoreau. And Thoreau, can I talk about Thoreau for a second?
Oh, do it. Do
So
it. Yeah.
nobody, I mean, I guess it's becoming more popular now because he just had a big birthday and people had been learning a lot about him. But it was news to me that his father owned a pencil factory. And the way that they make pencil leads now is they pulverize graphite and pulverize Bavarian clay, mix it into a paste, and fire it in an oven. But nobody in America knew how to do that back then. So nobody knows whether he found it in an encyclopedia or if he figured it out on his own. But for a while, Thoreau and Son made the best pencils in America, which
Really?
is
Oh,
awesome.
okay. So, I
And
mean, I know Thoreau is the cabin in the woods kind of guy,
mhm,
the naturist, but he was also, did I catch that right? He was a pencil manufacturer?
yep. And he invented a machine where there are river rocks with the chunks of graphite, and when they tumble, they send the dust up a chimney and into a box. And they basically use the same design now to pulverize graphite still.
Okay, okay.
But
So,
then I think they made more money doing electroplating, so that's why they stopped.
gotcha. Okay. Now,
Okay.
I was on the Musgrave Instagram earlier, and they were showing they didn't show the process. They just made mention of inserting the lead into the pencil.
Mhm.
That always baffled me. How do you know how that takes
Yeah.
place?
Musgrave sent me a cool kit that has like everything broken down to show my kids. They have two slats that have a groove cut in them, and then a machine lays in the lead, and then another machine comes over and glues a top on. So it's
Okay,
like two pieces of wood with lead in the middle, and then another machine shapes them into individual pencils.
gotcha. Have you been to that Musgrave
No, oh,
manufacturing?
I really, really, really want to go.
I do too. My brother and I, like I said, we did this motorcycle trip, and there's only so much you can do in Tennessee, right? In like 3 days, and it was a little bit out of the way, but man, it is something that I would be really. I just love that it's still old school. Like they still, from what I understand, they still make pencils the old way, right?
Yeah, and they just started making this guy out of red cedar, which no one uses anymore,
Oh, okay,
which is awesome.
okay,
Like they still make their classic pencils, but they're innovating a little bit, which
got.
is awesome. They've sort of rebranded lately, and they're like all over.
All right, all right.
This is
Are
cool.
there other manufacturers, or is Musgrave kind of the
So
only one left?
the other big brand is Generals. They're headquartered in Redwood City, California, and they make their pencils in Jersey City. And there's also somewhere in Tennessee, Moon Products.
Uh-huh.
They make like if you do go to Walmart or Target and you see those USA Gold pencils, that's who makes those.
Okay.
But that's really it. There were lots
Really
more.
interesting. And I can imagine there's not a whole lot of demand for pencil as everything goes more analog or digital. More of the analog and tactile life kind of gets left behind, and unfortunately, there's some consequences to that, like
Mhm.
pencil manufacturing goes
Yeah.
out of style. Um, so anyway, that's kind of unfortunate, but I'm glad to see that there's this hardcore. I mean, the comments are more active
Mhm.
in this episode than they've ever been before, and I gotta give you a shout out for that, man, because this is your crowd here.
Oh, I see
Um,
my mom.
oh,
Hi,
cool.
mom.
My mom will actually see this tomorrow when I upload it to YouTube. I have to go and give it to. I'm surprised I don't have to send it to her by carrier pigeon. But anyway, so you brought a couple of pencils with you. That we
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's first of all, I want to hear about the expanse of your collection. How bad is your addiction here?
So with having three kids, they're always happy to help themselves,
Oh yeah.
and their teachers are always happy to get donations. So lately, I've been keeping it from growing too much.
Okay.
But last night I separated my American pencils, which took like 4 hours, and I spent all day today organizing the rest of them. But it's not that there are that many. I was just being really nitpicky
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
how I did it. But I don't have as many pencils as I thought. Probably maybe a couple thousand, like low thousands.
Only, right?
Yeah, but they don't dry up. I could never buy them again.
Right. Okay. So are you one of these people that whenever I get something that's vintage or antique, I'm a big believer in not keeping it pretty on the shelf.
Oh yeah.
I'm rough on antiques or vintage items because I'm going to use them. Are you the same way, or are these kind of like these are special and they are staying
Oh
on the
no.
shelf, or do you use
No.
them?
I lately I've been sourcing these, which are the pencils I went to school with,
Okay.
and I just use them. That's why I keep buying them. So, I'm kind of a jerk about how much I'll pay for them. Like, I kind of lowball people, but most of the people find them in their drawer and they're happy to get rid of them
Gotcha. Okay.
because they weren't that nice back then, but they're super nice now, and I love them.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, I don't. There's nothing off limits in my stash.
gotcha. When you go to shop for a pencil, what is it that you're looking for? What makes a really good pencil?
Hmm. Um, Lately it's the wood because there's a big shortage of incense cedar, so they don't smell good anymore. So lately I try to find things that are cedar if possible. Um, but other than that, I don't know. Sometimes you see one and you're like, there's something about the cap on it or the color
Yeah.
or the grade, and you're just like, I'm gonna try that. And sometimes the ones that look so good perform like crap, or you'll literally find something on the ground and pick it up, and you're like, this is the best pencil I've ever had.
Yeah, and you keep it until it's like the tiniest stub, right?
Yeah, or you go to Walmart and whatever you walk out with is like your new favorite pencil. You're like, this is great.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Kind of the other end of the pencil, the eraser. Any special insights on the eraser? Because I know just from being a kid, there were some erasers that were just complete garbage, and then other erasers that I really enjoyed. Now, I was also the kid that would tend to chomp down and bite it off and end up,
Oh yeah.
just having that stub, right? But are you as picky about the eraser as you are the pencil
Um,
itself?
a lot of modern pencils they use synthetic rubber, so it tends to work better and wear
Okay.
off less. But so I went to 12 years of Catholic school, and if you made a mistake, you just put a line through it. So half the time I forget to erase, I just put a line through it and keep going.
Gotcha.
But no, not usually. I like something simple like a pink eraser. My kids, anything that I get that's flashy, they steal it.
Yeah, yeah. Now I saw a comment here. A comment that just came through was
Oh
asking about his pencil tattoo. I saw it on Instagram.
yeah.
Let's see this thing.
So is it showing up? Yay! It's still
Cool.
healing a little bit.
All right.
Andy, who's on here, is my co-host on Erasable, or one of them, and we all got tattoos together in February when they were here for our
Okay.
pen show, which was awesome.
All right. And a tattoo artist in Baltimore.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And I forgot who designed this. It was somebody that Andy knew at Facebook, so it's a pencil drawing itself. We all got
Okay.
a slightly different version.
Yeah, I saw that. There's like three of y'all, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
So, with your pencil habit, your pencil collection, is there any like holy grail of a pencil that you're looking for that you haven't been able to find yet?
Oh, I don't know. There are definitely a lot of pencils that I wish I had more of.
Yeah. What are
The
those?
the American Naturals pencil that were $1 for a box at Walmart. I really wish that I'd bought more. I have one box, I think, and a couple spares. Because you give them away. I'm like, it's a pencil. Here, take it.
Yep.
Have a box.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think American natural pencils tend to be my preference. And yeah, there aren't really any I don't have that I want. Just because like most of what I like is not very exotic.
Oh, really?
Like
Okay.
just kind of old.
Got
But I guess a gross of them would be my grail. That would be nice.
it. Okay.
I keep my eyes peeled on eBay.
Oh, gotcha. Now, I saw comments on your Instagram page and doing a little bit of research. It sounds like this community, much like the tiki community that's going to be joining later on, there are some diehard aficionados and fans of very particular pencils and even like fierce debates that take place. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This guy, I own one. It's the Blackwing from what's mine? Eberhard Faber. These were going for $40 a pencil
Whoa.
until somebody resurrected the brand.
Okay.
And now they put out quarterly editions in, for instance, one they did in fall 2015 called the 211 that was natural and it was a dedication to John Muir. They go for $40 or $50 a pencil. Like, people are very particular. And, you know, and a lot of stuff these days, there's a lot of limited edition and
Yeah.
FOMO. So I don't know how many of these get used.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I was,
I
okay.
think that's interesting. Uh, the tiki folks we're going to be talking to later on. There's some ceramicists, right, that create just very general tiki mugs that get, pretty widely distributed, and then they'll make a special run. And it does seem crazy that people will spend $100, $200 on a tiki mug or 40 or 50 bucks on a pencil, but it's very much in that it's not meant for everybody, right? It's
Mhm.
meant for that aficionado, that fan, that super fan. And sometimes it's those special things, those special limited runs that really help keep these manufacturers
Yeah.
afloat, right? So,
Yeah, Blackwing, they had what, three pencils at the time? They were pretty big, but now they've like saturated the pencil fan market. Everybody's got Blackwings, they collect Blackwings. You can get a subscription, so 4 times a year they send them to you.
okay.
Just,
Okay.
I've had that. But I was teasing my dad. I showed him one of my 211s. I'm like, this is a $50 pencil. He's like, what are you gonna do with it? I'm gonna write with it. I paid $2 for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. Like, hey, it's just some people just figure it's a pencil, but I love chatting with people that get really into the history and the nuances of their collection item. I think it's really cool. If somebody were to um, uh, if somebody were to want to start collecting or reading about pencils, one is there's your blog that they could go to. So I want to make sure that we plug your blog. That's pencilrevolution.com, correct?
Mhm.
Yep. My mom, by the way, I told my mom, she, like I said, she watches this. She was up at 3 a.m. reading about pencils, and she's been learning how to draw in her retirement.
Oh, cool.
So she's like sending me photos of all of her pencils, like, oh, this one came from Australia. She realizes she's got this great collection she didn't even know she had. So uh,
That's awesome.
yeah. When I go over to my mom's and she's got 4,000 pencils now, I'm going to blame you for that. So thanks. So here's another question I had. Sharpening a pencil. Is there a right way and a wrong way to do this?
Um, I think there are a lot of people that have the Grail sharpener. There's one from a German company called Kuhn that's called the Masterpiece because it sharpens away all of the wood and then it sharpens away the lead after that. So you could make a point that's this long. There's one, where is this pencil, that makes points like this because it's basically
Oh,
just a
wow.
little plane. But for me, I just grab usually whatever's closest and sharpest. Like, I literally have 100 pencil sharpeners.
Gotcha.
That I'm a little embarrassed about. But sometimes you want a crank sharpener for, if you're sitting down to write a letter and you don't feel like getting up to sharpen. Sometimes if you're drawing, you might want a shorter point. If I'm feeling meditative, I'll use a knife, which is super relaxing.
Yeah, kind of like
But
whittling, or it's exactly whittling, isn't it?
yeah, and then you get like really crazy and you're like, I've spent 5 minutes sharpening this pencil and it's perfect, but in 5 minutes I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, yeah. So would you say that sharpening a pencil, is it a science or is it an art?
I think it's an art. I
Yeah.
liken it to French press coffee. Like, you don't weigh it, you don't, measure your water. You just kind of know how to do it.
Okay. All right. Now that's kind of, you're starting to like, that's something that I can read. Just the whole. I don't know. I can imagine like like tonight sitting and just spending hours going through your collection or your pencils and getting them all perfect. The sharpeners. Do you have any of those handy? Do you have them close by? Because that long
I do
standing
not.
sharpen bit that you just did was pretty cool. How do you get?
It's called, oh, it's a tiny little brass block with blades, and you can either run it over the pencil like a plane or run the pencil over it.
Oh wow.
It's called the Hovel, the Hovel.
Okay.
It's
All right.
really, really cool. I mean, you could murder somebody with this piece of brass. It's really cool.
Okay. All right. My wife's watching. She loves pencils. I went and got her some for Christmas. I knew the name Musgrave, but I didn't know anything about it. So I got her like a really fine, cool German sharpener and a ton of
What?
pencils from Musgrave. Well, it turns out that I didn't know there were like sizes. So like half of her pencils don't even fit in the sharpener. And this, I think we're going to be opening up a can of worms here. But this is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a knife will sharpen anything.
Yeah. So, are there any? You're into music. You're in a band. You're a bassist. What's the name of your band?
Garuda Face. And I
Okay.
think our guitar player is on here.
Oh, is he? Okay. Okay. And you
Hey.
play bass. Are there any? I haven't paid attention, but are there any songs about pencils?
Oh, no, not yet.
Okay.
I'll talk to Paul about this. We'll make this happen.
Gotcha. All right. Any movies, classic films, or anything where you can are that you would notice, or is that something you pay attention to in movies where like, oh wow, that's that kind of pencil, or
I was watching Road to Perdition last night, and I noticed in the beginning that both of the boys were at the kitchen table using pencil extenders, like this guy, because it was the Depression and they didn't want to waste their pencils.
wait, can you show that again?
Yeah,
And can you show how that works?
sure. Slide the spring, and then stick a pencil in it.
So when you got to a nub, you would just click that onto the end of another pencil so you could keep using it, right?
Yep, and this is from Generals. It's called the Miser, which is the best name for a pencil extender ever.
I just watched that movie as well, and now I'm gonna. Those are the little things that a super fan like yourself are gonna notice that make that movie just even better. If that had been like the details in that make that movie like especially poignant
Big
for
time.
you, but for me, I didn't even notice. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen movies before that are set in the past and they have modern Ticonderogas on the table. I'm like,
Uh,
you couldn't have gone on eBay and bought one old box of them.
that's cool. You got anything else that you want to show us? This is show and tell. So this is an
Yeah.
opportunity to show your cool things and tell us a little bit.
This might be mean because you can't buy these right now because the person who makes them has a day job. But this is called the Timber Twist, which is a bullet pencil, and it goes in your pocket.
Oh, that is totally up my alley. I'm totally into space pens, so that is like a space pen.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I always joke that pencils are space pens, but they're better. They do everything a space pen can do. But, I mean, I get they clog instruments in space, but I've never been to space, so I've never had issues using a pencil instead of a space pen.
Yeah, yeah. What else you got to show us?
I have, let's see. This guy is my first carpenter pencil that my best friend gave me in 2004 when he found out I was into pencils. Now I've got a very large collection because this company, National Lumber in Baltimore, every time they make carpenter pencils, they make them differently. They have like different colors, different foil stamps on them, like lots of cool stuff. It's really awesome.
My dad was a framer, so I actually know something about carpenter pencils. The reason why
I love
they're flat
carpenter pencils.
is you want them flat so they don't roll off. Like if you're working on a roof or you're working on lumber or something like that, you don't want your pencil rolling down. So they preferred the flat pencils, so they wouldn't.
Yeah, I always see people with them sticking out of their hats.
Oh yeah.
So recently, my son and I found like a pile of them on the sidewalk. I guess somebody took their hat off and they all fell out or something. We took them home.
Cool.
But now with hand lettering being a thing, people use carpenter pencils to learn calligraphy because you can write flat and thin.
Yeah.
But the last thing is everybody was asking what pencil I had behind my ear. It's an American Natural this is probably from the early '80s.
And there's a little clip or something on that, right?
Yeah, this is called the Faultless Clip.
Did you add that on there, or does that pencil come with it?
You can get these. Well, I get them at the pencil store, but they're closed right now. I think Amazon has them. You get a pack. A pack will last you forever.
Okay.
Just don't step on one.
Awesome. Hey, Johnny, I really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been, again, you've been really sporty. I really appreciate it. Really interesting for me, at least. I think other people are going to chime in later on and say it was really cool. Want to give you the opportunity. A lot of small businesses are struggling right now. So, I want to give an opportunity for you to give a shout out. You may not be prepared for this, so no worries. But are there any small businesses or anything that you would want people to patronize? Or if you give them the opportunity?
CW Pencil Enterprise in New York, definitely. They've suspended online orders, but they'll be back.
Okay.
I probably could buy a gift card and then buy something later. Musgrave for sure, because they
Yeah.
might be the die-hard American pencil company. I think they'd go out of business before they moved.
Yeah. Give their Instagram. I don't know what it is. I'll put links in here later on, but
Mhm.
their Instagram is fascinating. I follow it, and it's really awesome.
Yeah. And lastly, Write Notepads and Company in Baltimore. They're a small notebook maker. They make everything in-house, and they're still working during the quarantine, so you can still buy stuff from them. It's at writepads.com.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, man, again, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thanks
you
for
coming
having
on.
me.
You also had your daughter just turned 10, so happy
Yep, yeah.
birthday. Yeah, the day that
Thank
I
you.
contacted you, you're trying to figure out how to do a birthday party in quarantine. So,
It didn't work so well.
you know what? My birthday was March 12th, right like the day that all this
Oh,
mess
geez.
started. Everyone that has a March or April or whatever birthday, we're all doing a do-over. So
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, she gets a do-over when this is all done. All right.
definitely. I'm gonna spend
Cool.
the whole summer and fall partying.
Awesome, man. Hey, appreciate you, bud.
Thank you.
I hope that we can stay in touch, and
Definitely.
we'll be seeing you around. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
That was really cool. I totally. I have been so lucky in getting guests on this. Yeah, it's just been really awesome. So I'm gonna have Marty and Jen join us here shortly. But I have something else that I wanted to show from my collection. Uh, I would say maybe 10 years ago, we went on spring break to San Diego. And while we were in San Diego, we went and visited the USS Midway, which is an aircraft carrier, a retired aircraft carrier. And, you know, I just, I love that time, like World War II, Korean War era, when this carrier was in action. And I wanted something, a souvenir, uh, as a result of that trip, but I didn't want, you know, just the typical souvenir. So I was looking for something that would have been from that era, something that would have been more mechanical, because that ship was very mechanical. And I got a Zippo. Now, I did have a brass Zippo that was given to me as a birthday gift at one time, and accidentally sold it for 25 cents in a garage sale. I regretted it ever since. But anyway, I only have two Zippos. This one's from the USS Midway. The reason why I wanted to show Zippos, and I'm going to first acknowledge I have created this show with the intention of kids watching. And I want to say that I've got a bad habit that I don't encourage kids to do, which is I smoke an old school pipe, right? Okay. It's nasty. It's gross. It stinks. Don't do it. But it's something as a grown up I enjoy. But here's something that's really cool is this is just a regular Zippo, right? And when you light a regular Zippo, it lights from the top. Okay. And the cool thing about Zippos, they've got a really great history. Go look them up on online. I think they were started in World War I. They needed something that could just, you know, was dependable and hardy and could withstand all the abuse. That's a regular Zippo. If you notice, it burns from the top. The problem is that when you go to light a pipe, you almost lose the flame, right? So this is actually a cigar lighter, or not a cigar lighter, but a pipe lighter. And if you see, it's got, let me close that up here, but it's got this hole in the middle, unlike the other one. See the difference there? And what's cool about this one is when you light it, you can actually turn it on its side and it keeps its flame. So I didn't want to brag about smoking a pipe or anything like that. I just thought that that was really interesting and wanted to share that as part of my show and tell here. All right, so that's that. I appreciate all the participation we've had. We're going to look and see if we've got Jen and Marty on here. There they are, Swizzle Dallas. Let me get them added. And I can't do a time. I don't have a clock in here, so I hope we've got plenty of time. But I'm waiting for Jen and Marty to join us. They're connecting. Marty, what's up, bud?
Hey, how you doing, Jimbo? Good to see you, bud. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, how y'all doing?
We're doing good. Yeah, man. Allergies are kind of kicking my butt today, but yeah.
Holy moly, dude. With all the rain and the temperature changes and everything,
Yeah.
it has been a mess, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane right now this last week.
Oh man, and Jen and I were chatting earlier, and it's like every morning you wake up and you've got a little bit of a cough or congestion. You're like, oh no, this is the one. This is it. You're right.
Yeah,
So,
this is it. Okay, we're gonna go get me tested right now. Let's go.
no doubt, man. Well, but I wish you better, man. I hope you get over it quick, and that that all this weather settles. But it's North Texas, man. Allergies are part of it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, so thank you so much. I invited y'all kind of last minute. We had Johnny on last week, so we gave a shout out to Swizzle.
Yeah.
You and Johnny are my favorite bartenders in all of Dallas.
Thanks.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about tiki. Now, I've been into tiki for a while now. I did just sell off all of my tiki collection. I know, but I got to have a theme in this room, and it was kind of like Canada meets the Polynesian, aspect of it. Just was a big mess, so I had to pick one or the other, and found someone that was willing to buy the collection. So it's cool. I got a couple. I'm keeping my swizzle sticks. That's the one thing I kept. So I'm now collecting swizzle sticks, which is a lot more compact than the mugs. Definitely. But anyway, that's enough about me. How did y'all get into tiki? Because y'all are de facto the mom and dad of tiki here in Dallas, right?
Well, thank you.
How did this start for y'all?
So I grew up with it, being from California in the Bay Area. My mom took me to Disneyland all the time, and the Tiki Room, the Enchanted Tiki Room was my favorite. I was obsessed with the drummers. I found paintings from when I was like 16 that I did of the Tiki Room drummers. Like I did each drummer, and then the guy in the middle, the drummer in the middle, like all separately. And they're like, looking back on it now, I'm like, well, this wasn't the best, but I mean, it's still really cool. I kept them because I was like, that's, I've just always been into it. I was also bored a lot on the internet. Like I get off, from school and the internet was new, and I'm like, what can I look up today? And I ended up finding a lot of great music, and I also ended up finding Tiki Farm when they first came out. And I didn't realize that I had been buying them when they first came out until we went to visit Tiki Farm, and I noticed that the third tiki mug they ever came out with, I bought from them. So it was like the third, the fifth, and like maybe the sixth that I was like, oh my God, I had that one, I had that one. And I actually sold them all before I moved to Dallas. And I'm kicking myself because I had so much stuff. I collected a lot of things over the years. And collecting that was just, it was just like, well, I have too much of them. I need to kind of like pare it down a little bit. And I'm regretting that now. But I've been into tiki mug collecting for a very long time. And then, of course, as you get into that kind of stuff, you go backwards. But when I was old enough, I went to Forbidden Island. That was my first tiki bar that I can remember. I know I went to some as a kid, but the one I can remember was Forbidden Island. And it was just over after that. Like I performed my first burlesque show there. And it just one of those places you just went to all the time, like on the weekends. It was like, hey, let's go hang out here. So that's how I got started in tiki.
I was actually exposed to tikis when I was like in high school. Trader Vic's was in Dallas, and so we did a school outing, and on the way back, it took us all out to dinner, and we went to Trader Vic's. I was like, yeah, this is cool. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I never went back. And this became the bartending like a couple years later, and always like using rum, and so I was making like rum-based cocktails or like a lot of fruit juices, and so when I met Jen, she's like, well, you've been doing tiki. I was like, what? I didn't know. Okay, cool. All right, that's awesome. All right, and so then she exposed me more to the tiki culture, and now it's just part of our lifeblood now. So
yeah. So Trader Vic's, it's funny. Trader Vic's was like my first exposure as well. My wife and I went to Hawaii, and there's something, and I was into scuba diving, and there's something about that whole environment you're wanting to, and I think it's very much like what the sailors, during World War II were experiencing. Like, hey, there's this culture, and I'm kind of messing it up, and I want to bring that home, and I've got this vision of what it is. But also there were small exposures to like really kind of a not quite tiki, but like Aqua Arena Springs down in San Marcos, right? They had the mermaids, and then there was an amusement park when I was a little kid called Seven Seas, right next to Six Flags. Actually, Six Flags actually enveloped Seven Seas.
Wow.
They had dolphins and killer whales and mermaids and pearl divers and everything. So it was like this kind of this dreamscape that I had grown up with, but I didn't know it actually existed. And my wife and I booked when Trader Vic's actually reopened, when it was that time capsule for just a little moment here. We went. Now, here's where the story goes bad, is I actually ordered an old fashioned at Trader Vic's, not knowing that there were tiki drink specific, right? But that was kind of my first exposure. And then later on, I got just kind of meeting Johnny Tight Pants and getting to know you guys. I got a little bit more exposed to it. And then I really understood, much like when we were talking to Johnny Gamber about pencils, the more you start looking into something, the deeper the hole goes, right? So tiki goes really deep. There's this beautiful history to it. Do y'all want to touch on and I apologize, I don't know, I've lost track of time here, but do you want to kind of give a really quick, for the uninitiated, can you give like the 3-minute version of tiki history and why it's...
All you.
I guess in a nutshell, it's about the only subculture that covers all aspects of culture, because it has its art, its music, it has its own cuisine, its own cocktails, but it's all encompassing. And if it wasn't, that's what the funny thing is about it, is that if it wasn't for Don Beach, then we wouldn't have tiki at all, because Hawaii wouldn't be what it is, because they were making, like, you went and had an old fashioned at Trader Vic's. Well, initially when people were going to Hawaii, they were going out there and they were making Manhattans and old fashions and Sazeracs and things like that, because that's what they felt they were drinking at the mainland. And so they're like, oh no, we had these drinks with these juices, and we thought this is what you guys did, and they're like, no, that's not. And so they adapted. That's what people were wanting when they went to the islands. And so they started making drinks that way, and making luau's a big part of the culture. I even think back then it was like the luau's were there, but not like they are now.
Right.
Like
right.
You can't go like into any hotel or anything in Hawaii without them doing their own production for luau's.
Yeah. And anybody that's watching this that isn't part of the tiki culture, just Google Don the Beachcomber or Don Beach and read his story. He's a really interesting character that kind of birthed this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right up to World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And World War II, I think, is really fascinating. My grandfather was a farm kid way out in the middle of rural Texas. That he was in the European campaign, but you got to think about, like, most of American boys were these farm boys, right? That went off to Hawaii, Guam, Iwo Jima, all these really South Pacific islands. And it was either like this fantasy or this horror. And through that lens, they bring it back home. And we have this explosion of tiki culture in the 50s. It became really big in the 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where that, and I don't mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This is where I'm kind of, my story may be wrong, but that's where you also get a lot of the lowbrow art that kind of enters in tiki, kind of all those 50s influences that you start to see it. Am I on track, or is there something that
No, you're right on.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just think it's really fascinating. The Dallas tiki scene, I love it. I join in on it as well. I don't want to spoil y'all's spoil your story, but can y'all talk a little bit about the tiki scene here in Dallas?
So when we started doing our pop-ups, we thought it was just going to be like us and like 4 of our friends. We were like, hey, we're doing this thing, and I'm a social media person, so I'm like, hey, anybody who wants to come, like, let's do this thing. And I talked about it for a while because we couldn't find a brick and mortar. We started looking for a place 5 years ago, couldn't find something. So Marty said, let's start doing pop-ups. Let's make a name. Like, let's see if it's even worth doing, trying to find a place for. And people came out from everywhere. Fort Worth, we had someone from McKinney, not like Avenue, but like actual McKinney. Yeah, and it was just like, oh my God, like this is crazy. People are actually driving to come to this thing. So we started doing, more and more events, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we've made so many amazing friends, and we've like really just seen our community grow and grow and grow from like, these 3 people who kind of like came to all of our Mai Tai Mondays to just like coming to every event and having their own, home bar and doing all these awesome things. And it's just really amazing. And I know that there's more out there. So we're just trying to find those people and be like, hey, like, you're not alone. Like, it's not just you and 4 of your friends. Like we thought, like there's a whole community of people that want to hang out with you and talk about drinks and music and mugs and do all those things. So the Dallas community is really just a beautiful community. And even Jeannie from San Francisco at Pagan Idol, she was even like, wow, y'all's community is just comes out.
I think when you have a community that's deprived of something, this is kind of like being a skater kid in Dallas in the 80s, right? When I was growing up, like the more you didn't have access to something, the more hardcore and dedicated that scene was, right? So the tiki scene here in Dallas, man, when you'll have these tiki pop-ups, or we do, like we were doing things at Industry Alley, or we were doing things at wherever, I forgot where Johnny used to work.
Parker Barrows.
Yes, Parker Barrows. Like everybody would show up and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was alone here, right? Yeah, it's really cool. So here's something that comes up a lot, and very much in the hardcore group, there's this dedication, or I want to be careful how I say this. When you really get into something, you want it to be true, right? So there is a fine line between tiki and Margaritaville.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
See the reaction?
Yeah.
Jimmy Buffett.
So what makes something tiki?
I guess that is a me question. That is a pop question. It's like you said, the trueness of it. It is the history of the culture versus beach culture. So tiki, started in Hollywood and kind of encompasses all these things. It encompasses, Jamaica, Cuba, Barbados, Hawaii, Polynesia, Asia, all these things all together. And the beach culture is really like parrots and sand and tiki, stuff, plastic cups, beach culture is great. Beach culture is fun. It's what you look for on vacation. Tiki culture is a little more like, I guess, refined. Like you dress up, you don't wear shorts, and I mean, you can, but it's you dress up to go to the tiki bar. You don't just like wander into the tiki bar with like ocean hair. And again, you can, I mean, on the beach that's still there is on the water. And, Trader Vic's in Emeryville is on the water, but it's still like not on the beach, so it's just, beach culture is just different. It's a little more like chill out, bro, versus like, we're going to the tiki bar and we're going to have Mai Tai, and, it's our anniversary or it's our birthday or. Yep.
Trader Vic's is a fine example of that. When it was in Dallas, it was a nice steakhouse. So my wife and I dressed up to go to Trader Vic's, and it was this, it would have been really weird if we had shown up in shorts and Hawaiian shirts. Hawaiian shirt would have been okay, but shorts would have been not cool, right? Yeah. So y'all got a couple of mugs. I had a mug collection that now goes on somewhere, goes on to live another life. But y'all got some cool mugs that you've got quite the collection, but you've got some picked out specific that you wanted to share, right?
Yes. I'll be
let's see what you got.
I know we're probably short on time, but just a few things. Tiki Tony is probably the most recent mug collector, or not mug maker, that I have become obsessed with. And I had to have this guy because I got the tattoo from Tahiti Gill. I don't know if y'all can see it. For Dallas Tiki Week a couple of years ago, and he makes the drummer. Like, these were the Disney, Tiki Land drummers, or Tiki Room drummers. They do Tiki Land. Ecom Bookham also is an insanely talented guy. This is the Forbidden Island deep sea diver. My poor parents stood in line to get this guy for me, and they hate me for it still. Our friend Jay Brooks did a design out of wood. And Ecom Bookham actually designed the mug after it. Jay Brooks is actually from the Houston area, from Spring, and so he's a Texas guy, and it's one of our favorite mugs. Big Toe actually signed this one if you bought it from him directly. It is the shrunken head of Fred from the Moose Lodge.
Oh, cool.
One of my jams. One of the collections I got from actually an estate sale from one of our neighbors. He passed away, and his name was Bob, and he had a bunch of bobs. So we have some tiki bobs from them. One of my other favorites that looks very similar to it, in a similar style, is actually from the Islander in Stockton, California. Well, the cool thing about this is actually it was in Ferris Bueller. So if you see him by the pool in the beginning, like calling Cameron, he's actually drinking out of this particular mug.
How cool.
These guys are super hard to find. And again, if you were into tiki in the beginning, I have the whole collection of these. There's Bookham Dano, Don Ho, and Magnum PI. I actually bought the other three for my mom, and bought a bunch of these to give out as gifts. And I ended up with all of my mom. She was like, what am I going to do with these? You have a tiki bar, you can keep them. And I kind of want to touch on highbrow and lowbrow art, as you talk about pencils kind of being like, oh, whatever pencils, or, those kinds of things. Going from, just sort of manufactured to what people consider art, geeky tikis versus something like Al Evans.
Yep.
Like, to me, as an artist, as an art major, they're both art. I understand that this is a little more manufactured. And this is, hand kiln, painted and all these things too, but these are painted by somebody also. As far as I'm concerned, just from an art collector perspective, they're all art. And I want anybody that's a kid that's watching, to understand that too. I understand, there is a difference, but for anybody to tell you that what you're doing isn't art or isn't tiki or isn't whatever, it is what it is to you. And as an artist and as a vendor, it is what it is to me. If I want to if I want to do my Margaritaville style thing, and that's what I think tiki is, then it is tiki, because that's what tiki is to you. And I just think there's a lot of negativity that goes around in every community, in every subgenre, but tiki especially. And I just think it's really unfair to put people down in their home bar.
Right. My very first tiki mug was a Chewbacca geeky tiki
yeah.
off of Amazon. And then, like, my latest, I had that Smuggler Cove one as well. So you mentioned something about it just being for whatever that, especially for that kid that just wants to get into this. People are in quarantine right now, so this is a great opportunity to throw, like, family parties or kind of break up the monotony. How can someone at home throw a fun tiki party?
Music. To start, find a Spotify, or a Pandora or whatever, and find some cool, like, Hawaiian style music. I grew up with Hawaiian music. My grandfather was from Hawaii, so I grew up with it. But if you just find, like, start with Don Ho, start with something easy, but you can go into things like Martin Denny, or, go to the Exotica style.
And then you can also go to the surf aspect of it and go in, like, the Ventures and actually the Meteors do some stuff too. Yeah.
True.
So it's a nice crossover from guys that, grew up listening to rockabilly and stuff like that, when they had hair to do pompadours.
And barbecue too. Barbecue, it's very much a part, not in, like, Texas style form, but like getting around the grill and looking up how to make huli chicken, or you might have a lot of things around your house that you can actually do that with. Drinks.
Drinks. If you it's just, I don't know.
Rum and juices.
Yeah, you have to use rum and juices. If you have any rum around the house, make a rum punch. You could,
or just make a Hawaiian punch for the kids.
It's one of those things that once you get into it, man, you just, like, all of a sudden learn this whole subculture that's so rich. So y'all were right on the verge of opening up the Swizzle Luau Lounge in Lower Greenville, and then this happens.
And this.
How are y'all doing?
We're doing okay. I mean, we're just staying home. Not doing a lot more cooking I've done in a long time here.
We're basically in limbo. Like, we didn't open. We don't have employees. We just started talking to them, but we don't have them yet. And so we're in limbo. Like, we couldn't try and get the SBA thing. We couldn't, and we're hoping if the construction goes quicker than not next door. We're having some problems with our neighbor. So we're hoping that those get fixed so that we can open up as soon as this is over, or not sure. So we're still just in limbo land, but we are, I would say, probably 90% there. We just have to wait for this wall issue to be resolved, and then we can just put everything up and open.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a really crazy situation. Like Jen said, we were in limbo because we we had just like hired with the interview process and brought everybody in that were was going to be our staff of Swizzle. Just had our first like orientation meeting. They'd filled out the paperwork, and then next thing you know,
next week.
I didn't submit. And they're like, well, if we do unemployment, it's not going to hit against you. I'm like, no, because
we haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
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 I don't have anything. Sorry.
I'm really bummed for y'all. We're my wife and I are limbo as well. It's just a crazy time. I look forward to things getting back to something, whatever this new normal is. Y'all opening up. I will be there on opening night, and I wish you all the best. I will put. I'm not a huge influencer. We've got just a small number of viewers, but this thing does have opportunity here. So I'll put up your virtual tip jar as well.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Y'all are so deserving. I love y'all to death.
Thank you so much, Jimbo.
Yeah, I want to thank y'all for coming on, and I wish you all the best. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. Y'all
Aloha.
take it easy. Aloha.
See you, brother.
All right. That has been the our fourth episode of the Show and Tell show. Two great guests, two very passionate guests, or three guests that love what it is that they collect and what they're into. I love having these kind of conversations. I will not see pencils the same again. I really look forward to Swizzle Luau Lounge in Lower Greenville opening up. The past conversations I've had about bearded dragons and fox and beef and man tracking dogs and found art, all those kind of things are so fun to really get into and discover. We're going to continue doing Lost and Found, the Show and Tell show. As long as we're in quarantine, I want this to be entertaining. I want this to be educational, and I would invite you all to come back. Next week, we'll have new guests teed up. I'm always looking for new guests, and it doesn't have to be a huge collection. If you've got something simple as a little collectible or a little thing that you love and you're passionate about. Last week, we had Nina, my niece, come on with her bearded dragon. And it ended up being an interesting conversation because she tucks her dragon or bearded dragon into bed every night. I didn't know you could tuck a lizard into bed. It ended up being a great conversation. So anyway, if you would love to have something, or if you have a kid that would love to come on and share their Lego set, or if you have a vomit clock, or if you know what a vomit clock is, let me know. I would love to have you as a guest, and we'll chat. And we'll see you in the future. Now, as I always end, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. Love your family and be good to your neighbors. And we'll see you next Saturday, 6 p.m. Texas time. Y'all be good.